As an indie game, Berserk Boy jumped out at me immediately. It had killer pixel art, character designs I loved, smooth animation, and overall looked like an adrenaline-inducing experience that would be right up my street as a fan of 2D platform games. Also, it resembles in many ways the Mega Man X series too. So it begs the question, is this the new Mega Man? Is it a suitable replacement for that now dormant series? My answer is no. This isn't a Mega Man game, but at the same time, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Today, we'll find out why. Big thank you to Berserk Boy Games for a review key. So for context, I love 2D platform games, probably quite easily one of my favourite genres of games. Obviously there's Sonic and Mario, but Rayman Legends and Celeste are really the two that I love the most, and have quite frankly spoken about a lot too. Berserk Boy claims to be for retro gamers, platformer fans, and completionists alike. So hey, I'm at least two of those things, and thankfully not one of them. As for Mega Man, I've played a few of the classic games, but really the only one I've ever truly bested was Mega Man X. It was a game I really enjoyed, but I'm not coming into this with the perspective of a hardcore Mega Man fan. Please bear that in mind. Finally, while I beat the game and rolled credits, I haven't done 100% everything that the game has to offer, so take that into consideration with my final judgment. For the ultimate tech heads out there, I played this between the PC and Steam Deck pretty evenly. As always, if you're watching one of my videos and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, click the bell and do all that other stuff. It does help the channel get more opportunities, kind of like this one. It'd be nice to review some other games as well, but people always look at the subscriber count and they're like, oh no, you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted to review this ahead of time. We'll give it to this website. It has no followers at all, but you can't have it, okay? So please help me get more subscribers on the account so I can get some review codes ahead of launch day. That would be really great. Thanks. The actual structure of Berserk Boy within its world and story is really where the game feels like Mega Man. The setup is pretty quick: good guy resistance group versus bad scientist evil army. Rookie hero Kai enters the fray, is transformed by a Berserk Orb, befriends an owl, we all do that from time to time, and becomes Berserk Boy, and we're off on our fast-paced adventure. Levels are largely made up with platforming challenges, enemy fights, mini-bosses and world bosses. Beat a boss, you get access to their Berserk Orb, and you can take control of their unique abilities at any time, as well as unlock new parts of previous and past levels. Very similar to Mega Man's Robot Masters. For the story, it pretty much plays out as you'd expect, with no twists or turns. Honestly, I don't mind this. I always kind of think that gameplay should be kind of the focus for a game of this budget and scope, but just bear it in mind going into this, you're not going to be getting a story more advanced than Mega Man X, if it's even as advanced as that. As for graphics, Berserk Boy is a very nice looking game. The lead developer did a large amount of pixel art solo, so I'm happy to report that this is of very good quality. He did not waste his time doing all this pixel art. Little clap there, not meant in a condescending way at all, it's just incredible pixel art, so I hope everyone is doing this at home. Just not the microphone, that's probably fucked up the whole video. The animations themselves are fluid and fun, and as a result you really do enjoy the process of cycling through transformations. It feels like you're controlling an anime main protagonist in truth. Despite limited graphic options, this is an old school retro game after all, with basic scaling options and a CRT filter. Berserk Boy looks great on a big screen and looks fantastic when scaled down onto a smaller display like a Steam Deck OLED. I'm really fond of the character designs across the board too. Kai in particular is a very easy to root for character as a result, and despite the rest of the cast not really standing out too much, there's a nice visual style here that feels like a blend of Mega Man and Dragon Ball. As well as the in-game graphics, the game comes with an animated intro that really elevates the presentation of the game overall, making it feel like a real work of passion in a similar vein to Sonic Mania, just off the top of my head. Matching the visuals of Berserk Boy is again a fantastic soundtrack. I mentioned Sonic Mania, and that's funny because the Berserk Boy soundtrack is headed up again by T. Lopes himself, who has made a habit of appearing in lots of great 2D retro games by this point. There are tons of high energy beats, and while not many of them ended up being earworms for me, I can report going away humming the main theme multiple times during the period I was playing through the game for the review. Speaking of the gameplay, I'm happy to say that I had a lot of fun playing Berserk Boy from the second I started playing it. The initial transformation you unlock immediately throws you into the action and is incredibly responsive. The result is speeding through levels quickly is an absolute blast. This element of Berserk Boy feels a lot like a Sonic game. Surprisingly, there's something about the way the character boosts that feels like a Sonic homing attack without the lock-on. But this quickly becomes a blueprint for playful, creative platforming, and it feels really good. As well as this, one of Berserk Boy's earliest moves has the ability to lock on and release into an instant attack from anywhere pretty much. As a result of both of these, when the game does throw more obstacles and enemies at you, you never really feel overwhelmed and always feel perfectly in control of how to manage the situation. Levels are structured in a linear fashion where you race to the finish, and here it emerges that really, Berserk Boy is a platformer in its truest sense that is drawing from a lot of inspirations. Not only do you jump across platforms, you grind along rails, you're fired out of automated cannons, you're hitting buttons and race into a door within a time limit, and you even shoot yourself out a DK style barrel on one occasion. There's tons of inspiration here from lots of different platformers, and it even extends to shmups as well. For the most part, all of these are really fun and varied and add some spice to Berserk Boy's runtime. Throughout levels there are optional things to find along the way too. You'll find members of the resistance in need of help, and rescuing them will fill a meter for the level, and with enough of them you can unlock a secret door within each stage. These usually contain more resistance members or Berserk coins, another collectible, 5 of which are hidden throughout most stages. Speaking of the hub world, it acts as a means for Kai to enter levels, upgrade his skill set, and see the progression he's making as rescued resistance members will fill out the halls the more of them he finds. I found the hub world charming at first as it wasn't overbearing and added context to some of the world and upgrades. That is until forced combat sections began to occur here as I made progress through the game. These combat sections back at the hub kill the pacing at times and ultimately feel like a bit of an unnecessary detour. If it had only happened once with something distinct like a boss fight, it might have been more impactful, but reality is each time these pop up, the only development is that more enemies appear in different areas. The main hook of Berserk Boy is the game's focus on transformations, as these are realised very well and give the player a lot of options for both movement and combat. Yes, I did say combat because fighting is a huge part of this 2D platformer. I think combat is at its best in boss battles, where you need to memorise attack patterns in order to survive, as each boss provides a different challenge and a different moveset to remember. The Berserk Orbs give you tons of ways to combat enemies, and there are lots of moves here, with additional ones to unlock along the way. I appreciated this level of flexibility, but I did still find that combat wears a little bit thin after a while. You eventually work out the best strategies to deal with enemies quickly, and I found myself going back to the quickest, most effective way of dealing with combat encounters, rather than wanting to try out everything. Again, I can't discredit how good the combat feels, as there is a fluidity between Berserk Boy's moveset that is very impressive and hard to fool. The implementation of Berserk Orbs in the platforming sections themselves are where they really shone for me, with the game doing a great job of introducing new ones, returning to old ones, and even streamlining the process in certain challenging moments, allowing you to switch to the required one without the need of the button press. While the standard Berserk Orb was my favourite way to play, I love the Ice Kunai, which forces you to hang from platforms like a ninja, and the Drill Claw, which allows you to dig under sections of the level, or allows you to manoeuvre through sections of terrain similar to Sonic Colors' Drill Wisp. There are plenty more however, some which even introduce the ability to fly, and I was really surprised by how the game managed to implement so many of these different mechanics, while still maintaining a sense of speed and adrenaline-inducing action. Unfortunately, not all the transformations were the biggest hit with me either. Despite liking most of them, I found the Mindbuster to be a big letdown. This is the last Berserk Orb you unlock as you move towards the game's final act. It looks really cool, so it's a power-up I was excited about trying out. The result is it introduces mechanics that simply aren't as fun as the rest of them. Uncovering hidden enemies or platforms with a lock-on weapon and a vertical boost mechanic aren't bad platforming ideas, but they feel like roadblocks to this game's sense of speed, which is its highlight. It also introduces another problem, as some of the Berserk Orbs are required to get through certain aspects of stages. You can't ignore them if you'd like to. This meant that when I played through some of these stages again, I dreaded going back to the worlds that required use of the Mindbuster, as I really just didn't want to use it. Look, people play 2D platformer games pretty differently. Some people just like to race through to the finish line as fast as they can in a classic Sonic game. I'm usually one of those people. But also at the same time, there's lots of people who like collecting things too. I hated the Sun and Moon medals in Sonic Unleashed, but give me the optional red rings in a Sonic Colors or equivalent game, and you know what, I don't mind that. They're there as an option for those of you who want to go back and find them. Collecting things is required to progress to the ending alone in Berserk Boy. You need to collect 50 Berserk medallions in order to reach the game's conclusion and final showdown. This was a bit gutting for me, as I realised through conversations with an NPC at the end of the game that I was nowhere near being close, as I had been zooming through levels not realising they were required. Can't say that I hated playing through the game again to find the remaining coins, quite the opposite truthfully. They are well hidden and there is fun to be had finding them, but I would have loved a bit more flexibility here. For example, I had made made an effort to try and find as many members of the Resistance as I could already, and as a result had unlocked a number of time trials. I think giving a Berserk Orb for beating a time trial might have made this feel like less of a grind for me personally, as I would prefer to do more platforming challenges rather than backtrack to find collectibles. While the game proudly does take inspiration from lots of different 2D platformers, I can't help but think that the final showdown of the game was a little bit too derivative of a Sonic the Hedgehog final boss. I think it's a missed opportunity, as the game made use of so many good power-ups, to kind of do away with them at the last minute and introduce new mechanics. Felt not like it was making the most out of the game's capabilities. I thought I was going to get a real gauntlet final boss that made use of all of them, and it just never came, and it's just a shame because it was an unsatisfying conclusion for me. To conclude, rather than feeling like a new Mega Man game, Berserk Boy feels like a love letter to 2D platformers in general, using Mega Man as a blueprint for its structure. I think if you're a fan of the genre, you'll have an absolutely great time here, as there is lots to love. Berserk Boy is a delight to control, and the core gameplay loop is brilliant, with the game truly at its best when you're zooming through levels and firing yourself into the path of enemies ahead of you. It is fundamentally a very good 2D platforming game, and feels like a lost relic of the Game Boy Advance. The main issues that hold back Berserk Boy from even higher highs are simply that I think it tries to do too many things, whether it's certain transformation styles that don't necessarily all land, the introduction of level gimmicks that feel at conflict with the game's sense of speed, or even pace-breaking forced combat moments. Ultimately, the game is a joy to control and play, and is full of fun and variety, but it feels like it just missed out on the satisfying conclusion it deserved, which would have kind of wrapped the whole package up in a nice, neat bow. It's a bit of a shame, because despite really liking the game, I think I would have liked it even more if the last quarter had kind of been more of what I was expecting. With that said though, I'm being extremely picky, because I look at this game and see nothing but really good gameplay and really massive potential. This is a big achievement for a solo developer, and is much better than many 2D games I've played from bigger studios, new and old. The pixel art and character designs are gorgeous, the music fits perfectly, and there are lots of gameplay systems working together here to provide variety and replay value for a player. I can easily recommend Berserk Boy, and if you want to support an independent developer who clearly does know what they are doing, I think you should support this game. I'd love to see a sequel to Berserk Boy down the line, and I'm very excited to see what is next from Berserk Boy Games. I believe the game is launching with a discount too, so it might be a good time to jump in for you. As always, thanks for taking the time to check out my channel today. Are you going to be checking out Berserk Boy? Do you disagree with my opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, I'll be back really soon with some other videos. Trust me, they're coming very soon.